Does a college football champion deserve an asterisk? As we know, the Big Ten's not playing, the Pac-12 is not playing. And finally now, as you go into the second week of September, you have the ACC kicking off, you have the Big 12 kicking off. SEC will kick off at the end of the month. But finally, Power 5 football will be on our televisions as soon as Thursday. UAB at Miami. Thursday night. I hope you have the ACC network. Because if not, you're not watching any college football till Saturday. With that said, we're going to have some college football. We'll see. Hopefully it finishes. But if so, if there's a champion crowned, if the college football playoff happens, you have the 4 teams, which I'll tell you on Thursday. I'll give you my college football playoff predictions and national champion. I already have one team that I'm looking at that I don't see really listed anywhere. I'm really buying it. If I could buy stock into this team, if they were literally a stock, I'd put money in them. I'll tell you who that team is Thursday. I'm very excited about this team. But if there's a college football playoff that's played, if there's a champion crowned, does the champion deserve an asterisk? Because again, with the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12 playing, 9 of the 25 teams in the preseason AP poll, which included every single team, whether they're playing or not, 9 teams are not playing, including 3 in the top 10, right? You have number 2, Ohio State, number 7, Penn State, number 9, Oregon. 3 teams in the top 10 are not playing. Like I said, 9 of 25 teams ranked in the preseason AP poll are not playing. Decent chunk. Decent chunk. So as we've talked about an asterisk with the NBA, because of the 4-month layoff, they're playing in a bubble, no home court. It's different. Major League Baseball, you're playing a third of the season, right? You're used to playing 162 games. Now you're only playing 60. 8 teams make the playoffs. We're not talking about an asterisk there with Major League Baseball. Hockey, same thing. They're in a bubble. No home ice advantage. You had a 4-month layoff. They had a new playoff format this year where you had 24 teams come in. You play round-robin series. You play play-in series to get to just the regular playoffs. Every major sport is different with one exception. Every team is playing. The NBA didn't resume with the Bucks and the Lakers not playing. Hockey didn't resume with the Stars and the Islanders not playing. Same thing with baseball. All 30 teams are playing in baseball. College football is the one exception to where you're playing games at home. Some fans will be even allowed in stands. So you have some, again, very minor, but some sort of home field advantage. You're playing at home. You're playing, for the most part, different, but a regular schedule. The season will feel, again, assuming the players can stay healthy, the season will feel relatively normal, college football-wise. They're not going to be in a bubble. We're going to see these home fields. We're going to see matchups that we're used to seeing. But the one difference is not everyone is playing. That's the one difference from every other sports league. Not every team is playing. Obviously, the biggest omission, number 2, Ohio State, a team loaded with talent. Some saying even better this year than they were last year, and they pushed Clemson to the brink. Maybe, one bad whistle away from going to the national title game against LSU. So does this winner deserve an asterisk? Does Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, Texas, whatever team you want to throw in there, UCF, let's just get crazy, UCF. Do they deserve an asterisk because teams like Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon are not playing? To me, the answer is no. The answer is no. And I'll be honest, I've gone back and forth on this issue a lot. And the one overriding piece of, or I should say opinion that I've heard that kind of, for me, cemented my mind into saying no, was this. Why we got to penalize players and the schools for playing, or I should say, why are we going to penalize a championship when it's another league's decision, not theirs? So why is it Alabama or Clemson or Oklahoma's fault that Ohio State's not playing? Why should we ding them? Why should we kind of lessen their accomplishment if it's not their decision? Alabama didn't tell Ohio State not to play. Clemson didn't tell Penn State or Oregon, hey guys, don't play. It's not worth it. We'll take it from here. We got it from here. You guys just sit this one out. We'll see you next fall. They didn't say that. So why is it their fault? Why should they get punished for a decision that was made by another conference that, frankly, at this moment, as we sit here on September 7th, doesn't appear to be the right one. We could be wrong. In a month, we could have no college football. It just gets too tenuous. You can't keep the outbreaks contained. Teams are getting sick left and right, and it's just one big mess. And then maybe in a month, the Big Ten looks right. We don't know. So far through the first 2 weeks of these lower schools that are playing, it's worked. So why are we going to I should say, lessen Alabama's accomplishment, Clemson's accomplishment, Oklahoma's accomplishment, whoever wins, because the decision made by another conference that they had no control over made this decision that they did in not playing. And think about it. College football especially. This is going to be the biggest hurdle, and this is going to be one of the hardest championships to win because it requires 100% buy-in from all 110, 120 players. Right? Usually, for a championship team, all your best players are healthy, and your best players are better than everyone else. So you're not really relying on a fourth-string linebacker or a fifth-string wide receiver for the most part. This year you are. And it's not you're relying on them on the field. You're relying on them to do the right thing, not get exposed, and more importantly, don't bring the virus into the locker room. Trevor Lawrence can do all the right things for Clemson. He can go to his apartment, not hang out with anyone else, essentially quarantine and put himself in his own bubble. Don't go to class, do classes online, go right from the facility, back to his apartment, and that's it. You can do the right thing week in and week out. But if the fifth-string quarterback or the third-string wide receiver decides, you know what, I'm not playing. I'm not going to see the field this year. Screw it. Why do I have to kind of follow the same rules? I'm going to go to a party this weekend. I'm going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to celebrate the win we just had. He goes to a party, gets sick, and now all of a sudden he's in the building, not realizing it, gets everyone else sick. It requires buy-in from the massive roster that college football has, over 100 players. You need all 100, 110, 120, however many you have on your team, to follow the rules and do the right thing. Which, especially for college kids, as we see already with college kids resuming and just a normal student body going back to class, that is very hard, if not impossible to do. Right? Schools are opening back up. Students are going back to campus, and what's happening? Massive gatherings are happening. Outbreaks are happening all over the country. So if a champion does get crowned, if we end up finishing the season, I'm sorry, there should be nothing to take it away. It stinks. And frankly, it sucks that teams like Ohio State, Penn State, my alma mater, a team I went to school, I obviously a huge, massive Penn State fan. It ripped my heart out that they are not playing this year. It hurts. It stings. It's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating watching teams like Austin Peay play football, but Penn State can't. Watching teams like Pitt and Temple in their own state of Pennsylvania play, but Penn State can't. So do want to end the show talking about pumping it up, because the NFL is blatantly overlooking and basically dissing the fans. They're allowing for a legitimate competitive disadvantage that they work so hard year in, year out to prevent. And that is fans in the stands. Now, obviously, because of COVID, because of the pandemic, each really local state government, local government makes their own rules upon gatherings. So right now, as it is, some teams will have fans, mostly others won't. 6 teams in the NFL currently right now will in some capacity have fans in their building to start the season. A lot of teams will reevaluate, once October comes, but currently 6 teams are set to have fans in their stands for the first home game, including the Chiefs this Thursday night. Chiefs have about 16,000 fans, give or take, for their banner unveiling and for their first game against the Texans. Roger Goodell last week, when he was asked about whether a competitive disadvantage would come about from having some teams having fans, others not having fans, he said, quote, "We do not believe it's a competitive advantage. We discussed it very early on with our competition committee and with our clubs. We do not see that." So Roger Goodell, in his mind, there is no competitive advantage for some teams having fans, other teams having no fans. And I couldn't disagree more. I can't believe the NFL is allowing this to happen. I understand. It's not a lot of fans, right? Like I said, the Chiefs are having 16,000. So far, it seems the biggest crowd that's going to be in a stadium could be the Cowboys, where they haven't announced the capacity yet, but the state of Texas is allowing up to 50% capacity, which for the Cowboys would be about 40,000. Jerry Jones said he wouldn't go 50, maybe he's thinking about 40. So the Cowboys could have, let's just say 30, 35,000 fans in their stadium for week 2. That is an advantage. A big one or not, it's an advantage. And the NFL, this is what I don't get. The NFL has tried their best year after year after year to level the playing field. They love parity, and there has been a ton of parity in the NFL. Think about the rules they've implemented to ensure that there is an equal playing field. Number one, if a team's headset, during the game, if it goes out, whether it's a Wi-Fi issue, whether it's a connection issue, whether it's a battery issue, if their headsets go out, the other team the other team can't use their headsets until the teams who are having the problem, it's fixed. So in New England, we see it a lot happen for whatever reason. Well, we know the reason. Let's not be naive here. We know the reason why headsets for the opposing team tend to go out more than other stadiums. But when that happens, the Patriots can't use their own headsets until the other team's is fixed. So they prevent competitive advantages in that way. Injury reports, same thing. You can't hide injuries. If a player is injured, he has to go in the injury report. You have to report it, and you have to determine probable, questionable, doubtful, out. They create the injury reports so teams cannot have a competitive advantage saying, oh, this guy's really hurt, he's not going to play, wink, wink, and then all of a sudden he's on the field looking great. Or you can't hide an injury. So, yeah, this guy's 100%, he's feeling great, the team's game playing for it, and then he comes out and plays 2 snaps. Not to mention, just look at the schedule. The NFL schedules teams based upon your win percentage. If you finish first in the AFC East, you will play the first place winner in the AFC South, the AFC North, and the AFC West. So they put a lot of triggers in their game in one way or another to ensure that no team has a competitive advantage. The best team who game plans the best, has the best players, executes the best, wins more times than not. But yet here we are. The NFL is allowing some fans in, some fans out. And whether you want to say it or not, it's an advantage. Sean McDermott, the Bills head coach, believes so. Mike Zimmer, the Vikings head coach, believes so. And here's why. Even if the crowds aren't at capacity, right? Even if they're at 20%, 25%. So not filled, not a lot of people there. 16,000 fans for the Chiefs. It's a lot different than a sold-out Arrowhead Stadium. But it's still noise. You still have to prepare for humans being in the stadium, and you still have to prepare for adjusting to crowd noise. Now, more than ever, because there's not a lot of fans here, we see it with baseball and with basketball as well. You hear everything now. Sure, maybe it'd be tougher to hear the fans in the upper deck, but those fans in the lower bowl, if they're screaming at you, if they're cursing at you, you hear them. Now, whether you want to say, block it out or not, these players are human beings. You hear stuff. Some things get under your skin. Some players are better at dealing with heckling than others. It's just a fact. It's just human nature. Some players are better at tuning out the fans and chirping than others. So now you're going to have opposing teams who aren't allowed to have fans of their own stadium. They have to prepare for fans at the team that they're going to stadium. You have to prepare for it. And in doing so, time is being taken away from the offense, from the defense, from special teams, from game planning, because you have to implement, hey, how are we going to get ready for the crowd noise? It's not a lot. Trust me, it's not what you're used to. Don't get me wrong. But it's still something. It's still something you have to devote a little bit amount of time to that the other team is not. The Bills have to prepare to go on the road to, let's say, play the Chiefs. But if the Chiefs were to come to Buffalo, guess what? The Chiefs don't have to worry about home field advantage, or I should say worrying about a home field, worrying about crowd control, because it doesn't exist. So it's again, 6 teams are only having fans for the first month of the season. That's still teams that have to prepare for noise that other teams don't have to. Taking extra time away from the game plan to prepare for fans in the stands.